social anthropologist, I'm a writer and a poet, and for the purposes of today, I'm the author of The Soft Life, Love, Choice, and Modern Dating. So this is a non-fiction book. This is based on my research that I did for my master's, which I completed in 2019. And my entire area of research is around gender, particularly femininities, and I'm really also interested in feminism and post-feminism particularly. I'm interested in our neoliberal economy. I'm interested in South African youth culture and popular culture, and so I took all of those interests, and that's how we got to the book that we have today. I've always been interested in how the media, but also how we as the public speak about Black women. I'm interested in the kinds of conversations that are elevated as being important enough to be put on TV, put in the newspapers, and circulated around as radio topics or as topics on current affairs programs. And when you look at all of that, it's overwhelmingly been negative. And what has been very suspicious for me in my work is also realizing that this kind of scrutiny, this kind of disparaging language is not present or not used for women of other ethnicities. And that's something that has troubled me greatly. And so this book revolves around, 5 ordinary young women. They are young, they're in between their 20s to 30s. They're ambitious, they're goal-driven, they have amazing careers. They really are trying hard to do what they can in South Africa. And what I wanted to speak to them about is their insistence that it's not just about what I can do for myself as an individual because I'm already doing a lot. They have an insistence that if they're going to be in a romantic partnership, especially with a man, with patriarchy favoring men in the way that it does, they insist that that man has to be financially capable in a particular way, and he must also be as ambitious, he must be as successful. And so when we come together, then we're equally successful together. So that really is at the crux of my work, and that is the conversation that I'm hoping we can have with more dignity, empathy, and grace, especially when it comes to Black women.
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you for writing the book. And I was at the launch of the book where you explained how the book was structured and what the book was about. And I know for most people, especially, I'll talk on behalf of my book club, The Soft Life. The title on its own says something different to what the book is about. And I know a lot of people have been saying, oh no, this book is actually not what I expected it to be. We expected maybe a novel or whatever. And most of them were a bit struggling about it, but they will share their experiences with the book. But I think it's the title. We all love the Soft Life because it was written at a point where Soft Life just sparked. And lockdown, that's when we saw the reality of this soft life. And I think I also took part in it. I cooked a lot, did a lot of statuses. I don't know if it was maybe because we wanted some sort of validation that, we are okay, we are doing this soft life thing. And I liked the book because I was at the launch and I understood what the book was about. So when I read the book, I was ready for what it contained. And I thought it was fast-paced, fortunately. So I understood the characters, each and every character had its own background. And I remember when you posted on Instagram saying, okay, I'm going to write a book about 1, 2, 3, any woman who's interested. And I thought, hey, maybe I can. But what if people will know about what's happening behind the scenes? Because a lot goes down behind the scenes, the relationship. But I'm glad that these ladies shared their experiences, and they're not shy to say, yes, I like the soft life, and there's nothing wrong with loving the soft life. I mean, we want to be comfortable. I like going out. I like going to the movies. I like it when a man spoils me. and it doesn't have to be transactional. It just has to be a relationship thing. So I think the word was overused, and it was negatively used, especially on social media. I mean, if social media says, ooh, Lebohang Masango is 1, 2, 3, all of us already decide that you are this person. And I think that's what happened with Slay Queens and Soft Life, because there are genuine men who just spoil their women, and there are women who also spoil their men. So I think the book to me just opened that door to say, okay, there is this thing, but it's not exactly what we think it is. And here's a book that did a bit of research about it, and it's telling us that, okay, there's certain people who like this lifestyle, there's other people who don't like it, but if they like this lifestyle, then let's not kill them or judge them. That's how they want their lives, and it's okay. I mean, you change men, they don't work out for you. Maybe I'm in one relationship with this one man, it works out for me, but that's okay. The soft life is a soft life, and the soft life just simply means being comfortable, living comfortably, and we all want that. So yeah, I enjoyed the book. That's my review so far. I read it last year, and this year I didn't even pick it up. So some of the details are blurred out for me, but yeah, the essence of it, I got it. I got that it was based on research. It wasn't a novel. It wasn't anything. It was based on true life stories. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, like Paballo said, from the title, I thought, oh, fiction, right? And the first thing I also thought was, like, I wonder, soft life. I actually hoped that it was not about Instagram girls and all of that. So I'm actually glad that you took another approach towards soft life. Do you understand? And saying that soft life is not only about material, especially when it comes to relationships. It's not only about the material things like going out and living a certain life, but the softness in the relationship. You understand? That's also a soft life. How your partner treats you and all of that. Also, you are leading a soft life, And I also appreciate the different, how can I put it? Like the women who come out to say, I've achieved what I've achieved, so why should I settle for less? And I respect women like that, honestly, because you've worked hard, you've done what you've had to, like, you've established yourself, so you can't now go and date someone. For me personally, honestly, it doesn't make any sense. You have your own apartment, for example, in Midrand. You're gonna go date simply or like, there's no way you guys, like, what are we gonna speak about? Do you understand? Like, it's not bad. Honestly, what are we going to talk about? We are really on different levels. We think differently, So I respect women who know their worth, I'm not saying be a diva. Watching a soft life doesn't necessarily mean you are a diva and you are pompous, or it just means you have standards and you stick into your standards. It's either you come to the party or you keep it moving. You understand? And women these days are well established. Like, women are well established. This woman I know in their early 30s, she has her own house, she has multiple cars. Do you get what I mean? So obviously I would expect that you want to date someone on the same level as you, or because what are you bringing to the table? So relationships, to me, you need to grow together, you need to teach each other something. So look at, what is your partner teaching you? What are you learning from this experience? So that, I appreciate that it was not about Instagram girls. Even the example you made of those two YouTubers, there's these two girls by YouTube, 50 tower, like, you understand? For me, it's such bimbo mentality, because it's like a regular bimbo. Like, what do you have?
Yes.
If you're gonna say a man must earn 50,000, why is it about 50,000? You get what I mean? So yeah, man, for me it's just that. I mean, know yourself. There's nothing wrong with wanting a better life, but get that life for yourself. Don't wait for someone else's child to get it for you, and then you set these high standards. I don't understand that. So, but yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know it was a non-fiction. I'm into fiction, but yeah, I appreciate, yeah. And there was no grammar errors that I come across, or that I appreciate, or spelling errors, because no. So yeah, that's my name.
Okay, my name is Dibo. I'm gonna be fair with you. I didn't finish the book, but I think I got to chapter 4. So, but what I appreciate about this book is you are able to relate to some of the things, like the Canyon Ball story, the Deborah Pastor when she was interviewing her. I liked how she was bold, answering her, because we could tell the interview was just about to oppress her in her decisions that she made. But I don't think there was any wrong. If you want a rich man, you want a rich man. If you want a broke man, it's your decision as well. So I just liked how bold she was, and I think I took so many things from her that at the end of the day, it must always be about you, not what other people think about you. But yeah, I appreciate that. The fact that I was able to relate with so many examples that you basically, like you just explained, that it's more of research. As much as we thought that it was fiction, we are going to, but I could really relate with so many things. And adding to what she said, that you need to be sometimes you need to be in the same level with the partner. So last year I went through therapy as well. You know how relationships can take you to the fence. So the therapist was like, if you are 30 and dating a man who's 35 or even 32, 33, you are basically on the same range. So if you're coming at the age of 30, then you've got a house and a car, and this man has nothing. Run for your life. Because he even went to a point of saying some men are lazy. So some people have decided they're not going to work. They're going to depend on other people. So if you are going to date somebody, look at yourself first. So basically you rate this person with you. So like I said, if you have a house, or maybe sometimes it's only a car, but this person is bringing nothing at that point, and you're all the same age. He said it's a red flag already, because it means, this person is not doing hard enough to grab something for themselves. So because I went for therapy last year, so when I got the book and started reading, I could relate back to my sessions really and say, this book is actually saying the right things. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, with me, I also didn't finish the book because I'm going through things. Not that I didn't find the time, things that I'm doing. But I also appreciate the book. And yes, with me as well, I like fiction. But besides that, I like the writing style on my side. With the ladies, how they also brought through their stories, and then I was also able to recommend it to a friend. She loves saying, I love the soft life. So I thought, you know what, it's all true so that you can actually hear from other ladies what for soft life is in mobile. And then maybe she can relate to them, because obviously it's so well in now where else I'm already settled. I can't really advise and say, no, show me back, because now I started differently from what she was, So I recommended it to her. She was meant to come today and also maybe review and say, how she feels. But on my part, I feel it's a nice book. I will finish it. I will. I promise. I will finish it. But yeah, it's a lovely book. I don't really have much to say because I haven't read all of it. But from hearing what the ladies are saying, from the different ladies that have said their part and how they feel about the soft life,
they define it as. I think it is true that we define soft life in a different way. I could say now my soft life is being settled with my husband, with my kids, making sure that there's groceries in the house, the bill is paid for and all of that. Other people feel the soft life is I want to go to Durban next week, he says, let's book flights, and go. So it's different levels for everyone. But the nice thing is that each and every lady that has written or said their story is different. So there is something common, but there's a different story to each story. So which is nice. Yeah, that's all. Okay, firstly, thank you for defining soft life. Oh yeah, because me, I know which is soft life, it's Dubai. Because I think that's how social media define soft life. I'm going to find out it's soft life has different categories, if I can say. Because some people they're like, my soft life, but being taken care of. But someone's like, no, I want to be half independent, but keep balancing, So I think with Boy, it's one of the people that were like, no, I have this. What I want is a man that you like, keep like entertaining. I think it's a bonus with her in the other. So with that for me, I was like, okay, as in now, me and you understand that, And then there was Camila, the one that said from the culture, a man had to do everything in the house and then came to South Africa to find the boutique. Yeah, okay, thank you, sorry about that. And then North South Africa is the other way around. They come to South Africa, get up a tap, or something like, no, when you need to be like, I'm not against like housewife, and then you understand from Jolie Uti. And then Wafunda was okay, how do things work here? And then Wafunda understand that. And then there was this lady where I just remember the scenario, which was like, okay, I'm very happy with how what is like the color how easy I think it was Lois or how. And then the guy started to have less time for weekend because he was like, no, I need to fly out and come back. I have less time. I need to go at 10. And then after a guy started like, I'm out of country, something like that. Yeah, and then you were like, okay, I'm happy with whatever I'm getting. But the thing that you don't respect time, then that's a turn off for me. I think like that is the issue. It also goes with the love language. So don't abandon yourself and your values. Or everything. That doesn't mean you kind of need to disrespect me somehow. And for me, I'm like, guys, it was very nice because like I learned a lot of things. And I'm like, okay, here guys, like now I know it's okay. So thank you very much.
Well, the book did not meet my expectations in terms of what the cover sold. I looked at the cover and I was like, okay, yeah, this is more about me, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But when I read it, I felt like, okay, it's not really what I expected, right? But there's nothing wrong with the book. I guess I just wanted what I wanted from the cover. You understand? So for me, with the cover, it was more about those women that are out to live a soft life, and they would go to all the lengths to live the soft life, and that is what we see on social media, right? But with this book, it's more about general women that are employed, and some of them they have their own type of men that they would date. Some of them are just, as long as he's fine, he can afford himself, I don't mind, and all of that. So that's the part I didn't expect from the book, that a woman would be fine with dating an average guy from the soft life. I thought it was more of the woman that would specifically go for a specific type of man that is moneyed and that will make sure that they give them the soft life that they want. And a soft life, not a comfortable life, I mean a soft life. You understand? Because there's a comfortable life and there's a soft life. So it's more like these women are more into a comfortable life than a soft life for me.
maybe I'm defining soft life in a different way. You understand? I'm probably defining soft life in a different form. But for me, it was more of a high life. That was my expectation. That was my expectation from seeing the book, from even the shoe, the champagne, everything is like, okay, this is the high life, and but it's not really much about that. However, there's nothing wrong with the book. As I said, I loved it. I ended up enjoying it because it's women that are, it does not encourage women to sit and expect soft life from men, and all this fancy lifestyle must come from men and all of that. But you know what I also like from the book is the fact that an average woman working for herself would also say, I also don't want a broke man. You know, because that's also that's me. I don't want the broke man. I know. The broke man is not for me. But there are other things that I found out, like the other lady, what's her name? She mentioned that a 9 to 5 any man working man is actually a broke man. How she classified a broke man, it's like, no, you do find executives that have 9 to 5 that have a good salary, a good paying job. But then the one thing that I like the most is the fact that it's not women sitting on their asses and expecting nice life from the man, which is what social media sells. You understand? It's women that are employed, whether they earn a low salary, whatever salary they earning, but they like working. They working and not compromising in terms of who they date. And even if you date a specific type of man, what I like the most also, sorry if I'm being wrong, even if you're dating a specific type of man, a high earning type of man or whatever, it's also a matter of, I don't tolerate nonsense. You don't give me attention, I leave you. I think it was Lise and the other lady, they were not compromising on their standards of, okay, fine, you're doing this for me financially and everything, but if you're not going to give me attention, if this is going to come at the expense of my happiness, I'm not going to do it. I think that's also encouraging for a young child to also go and do that, because women compromise themselves so much when they chase a soft life. They compromise themselves so much. So that's it's interesting to get different types of women coming from different backgrounds, and the fact that they're not just sitting, they working and they're going to school and they're doing all of those things. I like that. But yeah, all I have is that the cover sold me something else.
I'm so glad. Thank you. So can I just answer whatever lingering questions you have about this title? Let's talk about the title. Let's talk about the title. So what I can tell you about, this is the first time that I work with a very established publisher. Because coming from children's books and working with an indie book publisher, me and my publisher collaborate a lot. I'm the one who says, I'd like to work with this illustrator, and I want this illustration for the children to look like this. I want my cover to look like this. Please, can you move that there? I have so much control with my children's book. So this is the first time I come to a publisher that is very well resourced, very established. They have departments for each little thing. So all I could do was write this book. As for what, look, this, I decided nothing. As for these words, I decided nothing. Okay? They said, this is your cover. And I mean, let's be honest, I said, can we change this picture? Can we please, I showed them Pinterest, and they were like, no, this is stronger. And at the end, what I appreciated about that experience is that these are people who have been selling books for longer than I've been alive, okay? So if they say, this is the cover that will sell, at some point you give up control and you say, okay, because that's what collaboration is about. So yeah, Kavalena, they chose it. I did choose the Soft Life, and I chose it because as you know, in the first chapter, we open with COVID. And I open with saying, guys, it was COVID, but all of a sudden I was hearing this phrase everywhere. I want to be soft. I want my life to be soft. I just want to be a soft girl. And I didn't understand what was going on because it was like, but we're in the middle of this terrible pandemic. So many people are losing jobs, being retrenched, losing homes, downsizing, downgrading, people are dying. So it just felt like these things are sitting in contradiction with each other. But for me as a social scientist, that's where I want to go. I want to go where it doesn't make sense. I want to go where it seems like we're contradicting ourselves, because that's what it means to be a human being. It means to sit with all these complexities and contradictions and somehow make them work. And so I was very interested in that for that reason. And so that's why I wanted this to be the cover. And also because I knew that theoretically from an academic background, I'm interested in the economy, but a lot of people who are interested in the economy just want to talk about the economy and the political situation, or the economy and the SOEs in our country, the economy and crime. Very few people are looking at the economy and our intimate lives. Right? So to live in South Africa, with the economy being as difficult as it is for all of us, what is that doing to how we relate to each other? What is that doing? And fine, there are some of us who perhaps are already in marriages or established relationships, maybe we're older. So there are things that's happening at that level, but there are people who are not married. There are people who have not found their forever partners. So when the situation is like this, how is it changing the way they engage with themselves as women and they engage with men as potential partners? And I thought that was a more interesting way to look at the economy, because, and I think it matters as well. And for me to look at the South African economy broadly, then I think it becomes more valid when I say, so why aren't white women being scrutinized? Why aren't Indian women being scrutinized? Why aren't people of other ethnicities being scrutinized? Because we are struggling with the economy in different ways, and people are responding to it so differently. So yeah, I just wanted to make that first comment about just what you receive on the outside and on both the outside covers, because that wasn't me, but I am grateful to have collaborated with publishers who are better at this than I am, obviously, which is why they do the work they do. And in the end, I think we put together something interesting. Because sometimes it is nice to be surprised by a book.
Yes.
Sometimes it's So yeah. You know, South Africa, with our economy being the way it is, there are a lot of women who compromise themselves, as you were saying, to be able to get the soft life. And a lot of that compromising means tapping into this underground economy. And so there are people who are with criminals, who are with gangsters, who are with politicians, there are people who are with very horrible men, you know? That, as me, I couldn't have gone there. Because to go there and to speak to Lebo, who is give me a gangster name. You're good with names. Give me a gangster name.
A name. She just wants a name.
Okay,
Papa Action.
Papa Action. And now, Lebo and when Lebo, you're dating Papa Action, and I write about you and your life. And fine, I change some details here. But constantly this book comes out, and Papa Action, now Papa Action has a problem with me. So like, just in terms of my own safety, there are places where I would have loved to go, because it would have been so juicy, it would have been so interesting. For my safety, I couldn't. And even with things like, there are people who are mentioned in public, you know, who has slept with that person or who's dating that person. I didn't even go there because I don't want problems with people. And so for me, what then I think was interesting, or what I thought this is a good compromise, is that not everyone sitting here has the option of dating Papa Action, Lebo, whatever politician. We actually might end up with more ordinary people, right? And we still are very ambitious women, and we still want whatever version of comfort or soft life, whatever it means for us. And so I wanted to write a story that the common everyday woman like me, like us, could relate to more. And yes, I did make a sacrifice for juiciness, but the sacrifice of juiciness was in the interest of my personal safety. Because I can have bodyguards, it's just me, you know? It would have been terrible.
That put you at risk because you're not specifically mentioning it's not the real names mentioned in the book, and you mentioned it even in the beginning of the book that not the real names of the characters. So
You're
why
right.
would that put you in?
You're right, it's not the real names, but I'm just saying that you, as this person's girlfriend, you're comfortable to talk to me, and he's comfortable with you talking to me. And yes, it's not the real name, but when the book comes out, people are like, hey man, King Taro the story, like I just never want to yeah, or King Taro, doesn't that sound like Mang Mang's girlfriend or whatever, or whatever it is, because if I'm speaking to 5 women, then there are 5 partners who are maybe very dodgy, that I'm also having to think about how I represent this relationship. It's stressful. So at least when Mangaliso, he's an actuary, he's not doing, no one is doing anything illegal here. And so as much as that is not juicy, like those men have no problem with me, because, you know, yeah. Apology. A lot of the time when things are written about black women especially, it's very negative. It's about HIV and AIDS and violence and anger. It's narrow, and so as an academic it was important for me to try to write against that, but also to not just write something where only Batula University are going to read it. I wanted everyone to read it because I think it's a story that reflects all of our reality. Yeah.
Okay, so we're done.
I'm done. Thank you.
Sorry, disclaimer. Before people say I'm a classist, okay, there's nothing wrong with Simpiwe from Big Yamamaka. No, yeah. Do you understand? No, I'm just putting out the before that. Oh, she's such a classist.
Yes.
No, I'm just saying that different strokes for different folks.
Yes.
Simpiwe has his person Lena. I want Maschaba. Mapeta. Like I'm just saying, because you know, where they can understand each other. Where they can understand one another, you know? Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
So I just want to find out with the time you decided the title out for them. Were you not scared with yo, what if I get it wrong? Or what if it Twitter crash or something, you know?
And it wasn't just with the title, it was with the book. And you know what I tried to do, sorry, I'm going to answer this in a bit of a long way, but what I tried to do, which you might have noticed, is that I tried to open each chapter with some pop culture moment that we all experience, right? So that maybe if that moment happened and it wasn't something you were thinking about, you can go back and revisit it and perhaps see the significance in it and use that as an introduction to talk about whatever's in the 5 chapters, whether I'm talking about COVID or whether I'm talking about love, choice and modern dating, the World Wide Web, social media and apps, the various violence and vulnerabilities that women encounter, and also matters of, you know, feminist discourse. So each moment opens that up as a point of discussion. So I was scared that number one, the people that are mentioned in those moments who would get upset, right? The funny thing though is that someone I was working with on the book said, oh, most people don't read. They're not gonna know. And so far she's not wrong. So far she's not wrong. Which, you know, so far she's not wrong, which is good. And actually the only things I was actually scared about was actually the men I mentioned. The female YouTubers, I try to treat them with as much grace as possible because they are young and they are still going to perhaps change their minds, as we all do. So yeah, I was very scared to answer your question, and that's the thing. I think with any book, like I didn't experience this with children's books because children are so easy to please, and it's so easy to know what they want and to just give it to them in a quick 16-page book. Whereas with something like this, it's a controversial topic already. And I'm standing up for black women in a country where everyone's favorite joke is black women, you know?
Yes.
Everyone's favorite punching bag is black women, and everyone's favorite scapegoat for immorality and society just becoming worse and worse. Everyone's scapegoat for that is a black woman. And I've tried to write a piece of nonfiction that humanizes the people, because it's easy to make jokes about slave queens. It's easy to make jokes about like women who end up, or to actually question women who are the victims of violence, right? It's so easy. We do it without thinking. And so I knew to stand up for those people would maybe make me a little bit unpopular here and there. That was what I was scared of. But so far it's actually gone okay. Yeah, so far it's been fine. And I guess the people who would otherwise have dragged me on Twitter don't read, so I'm safe. It is hard to be criticized by people who don't know what they're criticizing you for. That's definitely hard. Yeah, that's a problem.
You can't have an opinion about that. You're not a reader.
Yeah.
What are you told?
And even if you want to read it, but if you didn't read this book,
Also,
and you
shut
have
up.
this book,
Yes.
then you can't.
you can't
can't.
now go on because of what Sako said, what Martina said. And you know, you go about 50 people say they don't like this book, and then you go and you check.
Hey, you follow that trend, Luena. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Mm.
This is what other people say.
You go with it.
You don't get so much power in just keeping quiet.
Yeah.
Just keep quiet. What's it gonna do to you? You know?
So my question is, how many women actually said, yes, I would like to be featured in the book, and how did you choose those ones?
Okay, so this obviously started when I was doing my master's degree, and because I do anthropology, we have to engage with people in order to produce our research. So I started off when this Blesser Blessy thing, because that was where my thesis and my research interest began. Late 2015, late 2016, and the reason why I was interested in that is that I don't know if you guys were there or if you remember, but it's something we watched unfold on Twitter quite slowly, you know? And so to have been there in that moment, I decided that I'm going to write about this. And so the first thing I did, now I know was a mistake, but I put out, while I was compiling my research proposal, I just put out something on Twitter that said, hi, are you a blessee? Would you be comfortable to speak to me? There's no one in the world who's gonna talk to a stranger and say, hey stranger, you're looking for blessees. It's me.
I'm the one,
You
yeah.
know, no one's gonna do that. So I had to go back and then revise it, and so I asked some questions instead. And I said, are you between the ages of 18 and 28? Are you in a relationship with a partner who gives you money and gifts more than you give them money and gifts? Would you be willing to speak about it, etc.? You know, those kinds of questions. And I think as people looked at that short list, they were able to identify. So I actually started off with about, I think 12 to 15 women who were interested. Then I started asking questions. Then they realized, and the thing is that not all of us have been part of a research study, so you don't know what it's about until you're speaking to the person. And I think when people saw, would say, oh wow, this woman that I don't know is going to ask me very intimate details about my life. And she is saying that she's going to keep me, this is going to be confidential. She is saying she'll give me an alias, no one will know who I am. But I can't trust that someone won't put it together later on. And I understand that discomfort. So I start off with 12 to 15. As time passes, I end up with 3 for my masters, right? And I was so fortunate that we live in the era of the internet where they'd been on Twitter with me for some while, like maybe following me and I follow them, but they could see that they know where my heart is. They know that I'm a feminist. They know that women matter to me and I would never betray a woman, right? And so they were able to understand that, and then we were able to do this together, thank God. And then with this, I knew that I didn't want to just work with 3. I knew that I wanted to work with 5. So then I put it out on Instagram, as you saw, and then some other women approached. So that's how we ended up with those women as well. But for me, what mattered for this book is that I needed women who were, and luckily from my masters, some of them had grown up. I mean, the youngest one is Bongi, ne? And that's why Bongi is the one who's still struggling with unemployment. Right? She's got her entrepreneurship, her side hustle that she's doing, and she's got her partner who gives her money and gives her advice. But at the end of the day, she was in school when her and I first met, and she was having these jobs here and there, you know, working in retail, this and that. But as soon as she got her degree, which is something so many people can identify with, she couldn't get a job. She couldn't get a job matched to that degree, right? And this is why she's had to create an alternative. But that is the truth of South Africa. So many people have studied, have dedicated themselves parents and families have sacrificed. It breaks my heart. And the thing that you now want to do, you absolutely cannot do. And now, to make ends meet. It's a story we're very familiar with. So yeah, that is how I ended up choosing the women in this book, and I'm just really grateful that they were gracious enough to accept. And also me, because I take them very seriously, you can't put together who the woman is, because I didn't just change her name. If she says I was hanging out at service station in Melville, I'm gonna say she was hanging out in Maboneng. You know what I mean? So you're never gonna be put, because that's important to me. I don't want you to suffer as a result of working with me ever.
So what were some of the most uncomfortable questions you asked?
So the most uncomfortable questions were honestly around the violence they'd experienced, you know? Because even though I didn't want to produce a very particular done and dusted, repeated narrative, especially from an academic perspective, where they're constantly speaking about African women, victims of violence, vulnerabilities, and venereal diseases, victims of HIV and AIDS, victims of that, you know what I mean? I didn't want to write another book like that. So that's why it was important for me to make it like fabulous and have flair and so on. But it's also something that you can't avoid because it's the truth of, and what was important to me, especially in chapter 4, I didn't want to say it's the truth of wanting to be with a rich man. It's the truth of wanting to be in community with men in South Africa. As long as we are women who, you can be a single woman. If there are men around you, whether you're in public or in private, we know that unfortunately there is danger there, right? And so that was important for me to make that point. But in terms of the uncomfortable questions, to ask a person who is also a stranger, but to say, please tell me about all the violences you've encountered with men, you know? It's a horrible thing. And so to hear that Bonnie was having an argument with her ex, and he just pulled out a gun and he casually put it on the table, you know? To have a young girl who is trying to hustle, and she's a promo girl, and she's going to the clubs and whatever, for her to go and sleep over at her friend's house, or her friend's boyfriend's house, and then have her friend's boyfriend's friend rape her while they're gone.
You know, I was very much interested in that story, and I was so upset it just ended there. But I understood well, it wasn't about her life, but
and that's the difficult decisions that I had to make, in that I mean, it's hard because it's like, tell me about your violence, but because it is your violence, I have to change some of the details, and which feels weird as well, to change the details of your story, but I have to, because I have to protect you. So I change the details of your story. I do it to protect you, and also to give it to readers like, here's a piece of this thing that happened. Because I want to give you the context. I want to tell you about what she did, how she survived, but it's like, I have to deal with all of this and make a point. That's what the book is, that's the point. So that was really uncomfortable to do. And also maybe that's why I finished it so quickly, right? Like maybe it ends there because it's like, I can't do this.
I'd like to ask a question. So after saying all of that, how do you deal with the emotions? Like when you get home, you have this interview or this conversation with this person, and you know what they're going through, and now you have to put it in a book or find words to make them feel comfortable, or to make you feel comfortable. How do you deal with it? Because obviously you're human, and you get home and you think, you know, another woman is going through that, or whatever it is. How do you deal with the emotions?
I mean, it was really difficult because some of there's one particular instance that you mentioned, and I've experienced something similar myself, you know? So to be triggered in that way is really hard, but the only thing I can do in that moment is to just be there for her, support her, hear her out, ask her what she needs in this moment. And the thing about the way violence happens to us as women is that you also have a way of filing it. Okay? So if you need to tell the story, you can tell it to kind of move on. And there were many instances where I'm the one who's shocked and heartbroken. And she's just like, well, yeah, that happened. You know, and she kind of moves on. So that is a very difficult thing to sit with. And all I could do each time is, I appreciate you sharing this with me. What do you need from me? You know, and she was the one who said, I'm fine, let's continue, let's move on, you know? So yeah, it's just case by case, being in the moment with a person and supporting them through it, yeah.
I have a comment.
Okay. So I get it with the soft life that we know, not the soft life the other book.
Yeah.
The soft life that was made clean. Why do you think women gravitate towards that type of soft life, the Dubai soft life, instead of the soft life that you can create yourself with whatever resources you have? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to earn a certain amount of money to achieve 1, 2, 3. I mean, you can take yourself to a nice restaurant, you can do 1, 2, 3 for yourself, but why do you feel women prefer to gravitate towards the Dubai soft life?
That is a very good question, and the way I see it is that when we look at the injustices, the hardship, the difficulties of South Africa, economically, etc., what you come to realize is that if you want to be given dignity and respect in South Africa, you have to have money, right? Regardless of who you are at whatever level, but money gives you access, respect, it gives you people's dignity, etc. And so we see this even in the way that we have to navigate public services. We know that if you are in a poor or marginalized area, you won't be given the dignity of your refuse being connected on time. You won't be given the dignity of proper water, proper toilets in your child's school, consistent electricity supply, and we're all suffering, but we know load reduction is also a kind of racist way of exacting the division of electricity in South Africa. So we know, Guti, there are so many things where you get better when you have no money. And so I think what happens with women, this is where the internet comes in as well, because the internet has shown us, Guti, people who look like us, people who are our age, maybe people who literally look like me, like she has an afro and she has tattoos. Maybe she's living a life with a millionaire or whatever, right? And it's like, I go, why me nang kupeg? I live with someone who looks like me is not struggling. And I think social media has given us like a mirror, but also a window into other people's realities, and through this thing of like influencing and so on. As we've seen it grow, that is obviously a trend that is growing from like, you know, the global norm, and we see how those girls are doing it, so we're also kind of replicating it here. It's kind of working for us, etc. So through social media, through the economic situation, girls are deciding, or women are deciding rather, that why have something small, right? When I have this, like, I think it's also a matter of understanding your mortality, understanding that we're all gonna die, understanding that your time is limited. And if my time is limited, why not be in first class to Dubai? Like, if my time is limited, why must I put together money to go to Jordan and come back when all I have to do is be really beautiful? And this man wants to take me to Dubai. So I think we all make our choices, of course. Our choices have various consequences. But also, it's easier for someone, I can only speak for myself, it's easier for someone like me to say, no man, I don't need too much. The little I have is fine. Like, I don't mind what I have. But there are some people who perhaps they have experienced so much indignity of poverty because we don't know them yet. So maybe they've suffered such indignity that the moment they have the slightest opportunity, they do the most they can. And so that's why, for me, I can have empathy with everyone, because it's like we really don't know what people's situations are and what it is that has led them to make the choices they make. And also, it's important for me that as long as you haven't killed anybody, as long as you're not committing crimes, as long as you are also not facilitating the commission of crimes, if you're fine, then get on the plane and go to Dubai, girl. Like, get the Peruvian weed, get the Louis Vuitton, get the Dolce, like, you know, do what you want to do. It's fine. Yeah.
I think like just she said, with the choices that she made. I still love this lady. I think it's the Mpumalanga lady who allowed herself to be put in the boat. The thing is, I saw it in the news that evening, and I'm trying to think. On the day, probably I was very judgmental. I'm like, oh girl, now you have exceeded. but as I read the book, I tend to now go back and try to read it at a different perspective. So yeah, but
Remember the lockdown, there was a lady on like a but she wrote about it.
The extents that we go through.
Sure, look, guys.
For me, wait to that time, what it made me think of that incident, even when it was happening, because I remember it was trending on Twitter that day. What it reminds me of more than Mujolo, it's like the way there was a time in the pandemic. Remember, it was still going to be just 21 days.
Yeah.
And it was such a confusing time for everyone.
It was.
And and you're not allowed to leave your house, and you don't know how this disease is transmitted. So it was such a scary time. So imagine you're so lonely, and your person says,
Most of us live in that
and also I think we're made to believe that it was just gonna be 21 days. There's not gonna be an extension. But it went on and on and on.
then you're like,
really,
for
me, really, I thought it was just going to be 21 days. After 21 days, we are back to normal. That's how it came to me.
And that lady, when did she do it? Was it April? She couldn't wait. It was 1 month, then she said, oh, I'm not Guys, it was the 17th of April. We went into lockdown 20 March.
Yes.
Barely a month. That's a month. No, I understand. I wasn't in a relationship and I wasn't married. Not I wasn't married, I'm not. Like what? I was single. And so also the rate at which people were dying, right? Because at first you think, no, maybe it's older people who are dying. No, then you start seeing it's younger people dying. And then you realize, oh, I'm not like you can't say no, I'm fit and healthy. And so then you start to, the loneliness is a different kind of loneliness, because it's like, I want it in his ocean, I'm gonna die without getting married. It was so bad.
It was bad.
You're right, because in the beginning it was like, shame, give us all things. Like, shame the old people. And then you're right, age groups, and then the 40s. And then they said, comorbidity carrying, you're not sure. If this thing catches me, it's over for me, because I've got asthma. So I was like, that's how guys, I think it messed us up mentally more than anything. Because every time I sneeze or cough, I feel like
anxiety.
I was so paranoid. I was like, oh my god, like a Cherokee flu. I honestly thought I've got COVID. This is COVID. I've never been so sick in my life. So it's your Aisha. I want to like boots.
That's why I wanted to start it with COVID because it's so recent, but it was also so devastating.
Yeah.
And also these women live on their stories. There's no one who can share a story that you can't relate to. Some people had to watch people die, and then some people were struggling with employment. Some people are being forced to take taxis to work. Some people are being forced to go to work. They don't want to hear anything about COVID. Babang, Jolie, Nebasaba Patale, like they were saying, no, you'll get your salary later. Next thing, salary, I start cutting the way due to like people were suffering, and so I wanted to start it there so people can think back to that moment. And even if maybe the lives of these women, in terms of what they want in a relationship, even if you don't understand it, as a human being who experienced what we're experiencing in 2020, can you maybe at least connect with the people? That's why.
Yeah, no, Shani.
But one quite nice thing that you got from COVID. South Africans are very creative guys. Like from Muri, I think most of us we only know to identify things that you like and don't like, and you resolve our true colors. We go to Muri, okay, receipts, and now that's when we started to be like, every minute one CC. You understand? Life was better at the time. Everyone like Miss 1 or 2 minutes, and then you go, you come back. Yeah, understand that. And then I think I can. At the time, I think it's amusing. COVID. One thing about this whole thing was that now gender like just like gender, because now everyone is frustrated.
Yes.
There's a lot of frustrations going through. Like that's why you're like, ish, guys.
I think that's why a lot of marriages, like a lot of relationships suffer.
Yes.
Like we talk,
You cannot wanna
really
how
get
can
to
you-
know your person all the time.
But Lebohang, thank you. This is yours. Thank you for coming.
I love you. Gosh.
Something soft life-ish for you.
Thank you. Oh, this is beautiful. Lebohang, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for reading my book and engaging. Those of you who didn't finish, I hope you finish. I really hope you finish for real. Oh, sorry.